The following video is about a subject I'm knowledgeable of, and I'm critiquing someone who's normally on subjects that are way above my pay grade, as they say. What is gravitic propulsion, and could the U.S. government hide it? By Sabine Hossenfelder. From 5 minutes and 18 seconds to 5 minutes and 47 seconds, I'm going to play back an audio snippet. This is done for critique purposes. I'm pretty sure this is an off-the-cuff statement, but it concerns AI and the scale at which you must do things. Let's see if we can hear this. I hope this won't be terribly bad.
You don't just build a $1 billion frontier model in your basement and play around with it. If some big AI company works out a way for how to make their models super intelligent, it can make sense to classify that maths, exactly because it's not something that others can easily reproduce. That's not to say that I'd advocate doing this. I'm just saying it's possible, and it would almost certainly work.
Now, this is the funny part about the subject. I'm going to bring up two things. Number one, you can look up, I think it's War Thunder. It's a meme where actual military people can't help but correct people because they're saying something that's inaccurate about something, and they inadvertently release information that's literally top secret. It's actually controlled data. Because the easiest way to get information out of somebody is to misquote a correct answer so they'll correct you. But that was about how an AI, we're gonna discuss this very vaguely, because that was, 30 seconds of her speaking. You'll have to look at the link below. It ends in 0-X6S. Why does that sound familiar? So, the idea here is that some very large corporation that's building an AI model, engine, or system, because, if you're not aware of it, a model may be expensive to create, but as the joke goes, the first version you put out is the $1 million or whatever. The second version is 5 cents, if you're doing it correctly. But in the case of AI models, that's not really accurate. But are they really something that the average person could reproduce cheaply or not as expensively? And the answer is hell yes. The methods for it, I'll just bring up really quickly, are harness a botnet by paying good money for a botnet. Most of you are aware of the fact that your computer can be infected with something that can become a Bitcoin mining machine, or more accurately, a chunk of a ginormous computer system made out of billions and billions of computers, and it's stolen time. Yes, it's billions of dollars, seriously. Billions of dollars of processing power that you're paying jack shit for off the dark web, but that's one method. The other one is, and this is something a lot of people don't get, an AI, an algorithm, whatever it is you're talking about, is not a magical thing that requires money to build. It isn't. It requires data. Let's say you wanted to set up a website to analyze human behavior. You could do one set up like, you could start off with it being a dating site, and then over the years change its behavior to where you're collecting information from literally millions of people and just generally analyzing every damn thing they do, and get upset when I load up, uBlock Origin on YouTube, because that's literally what happened. That's the reason Google is a search engine, being able to predict people's requests by permanently keeping stored copies of every web page, and then coming up with an algorithm to where they can sort in even smaller and smaller spaces, to where it's just itching to be put through an AI system. Why they originally started off saying, don't be evil, and then, of course, we saw what happened. Yeah, but that's $1 billion company. Yes, but you can grab, because it wasn't hidden, the original code, and then start over. The founder effect, let's call that happening. Again, Sabina is a person who's deeply into a subject which I'm not really qualified to even stick my toe in, because I, sort of a reverse thing of being Achilles' heel at this point. It would show my vulnerability. I have no ability to do that, and yet I've had to. People have asked me to explain, well, oddly enough, the same subject. Can you use gravity for propulsion? And my answer was almost the same thing she brought up in the video. Because we don't see an actual example in nature of something, and a bunch of other arguments, the likelihood of us being able to do that at all is almost zero. Virtually everything human beings do is just imitating shit we already see. And even an example she brings up, using multiple particles and or materials and or doing what chemists do, where they just make things and see what they do and then use them for something useful. Like making carbon nanotubes. Because we found out you could do that by literally lighting shit on fire and it'll form them naturally, and figuring out how to, harness this. But you're going another step further by creating things that don't exist. Because you saw one model, you can make another that's a little bit different. There's a whole bunch of go read the new versions of Bucky tubes, Bucky balls, etc. But the point here I'm making here is that applied science is where you would find somebody being able to do this sort of thing, and she brings up, that's the area where you see people doing stuff. Okay, but it's still dependent on, do we see this in the natural world? There are biological examples of what solar cells work off of. If you want to stretch the definition, chlorophyll in every plant does almost the same thing. There is something similar. And also, naturally occurring solar cells exist. That's another story. Just look up naturally occurring solar cells. But applied science can go beyond that to things that can't exist in the real world or in the universe as far as we know, because we create ridiculously specific, oddly specific circumstances to cause this. For instance, like I was saying, naturally occurring solar cells, there is an unnaturally occurring logic gate you can make by forming crystals that make NAND gates specifically that are not exactly at the atom level, but they're at the molecule level, which is good enough. Yes, it's experimental and it's not really all that useful. However, it might be. See, that's the inkling thing. And again, with gravity being used as propulsion, we don't have any examples that we found by accident. That doesn't mean they don't exist. It's just that we've stretched things as far as we can, and she brings up some very good points. Please watch the video. But the sentiment that an AI system can't be done in literally a garage by some random tinkerer is defied by something rather disturbing you may not be aware of. I do jokes on my YouTube channel every once in a while about people getting recycled equipment and then implementing it in ad hoc Wi-Fi and then eventually telecom networks in, quote, Africa. That includes them networking just your old cell phone, jailbreaking it, and then eventually just reprogramming it entirely with much better software that they're now selling back to you. You might want to look up the origin stories for some of the programs you're running. And they're using them to build supercomputers. And the they I'm referring to is just anybody who grabs them these days. Yeah, but they're weak and stupid. Yeah, but as long as they don't burn up because they're inefficient as hell, the more processors, the better. It doesn't matter how slow. Your old 286 computer. Well, it can't do much. Yeah, but it can network and be the boss mode for hundreds of others on like a token ring or something. The point is, scalability doesn't go away just because something's outdated. In fact, it becomes easier because the older something is, the less likely you are to have incorrect information on how to exploit it. So, what is this video about? For, I'm saying, around 28 seconds almost exactly, a rather brilliant individual said something that is simply not accurate. I don't know if it's true or false. That's not the word we should use here. But my statement here is going to be made, and I'm going to rewind her video, or actually the audio recording here. And it's pretty straightforward. No, a very large corporation isn't going to be able to make something classified or make something hidden that's going to last any longer than, as she was mentioning, the math or maths. I'm an American, I have to do a joke about that. The math activity, the math equations that were used to figure out how to do atom bombs eventually leaked. That's going to happen because math keeps being done. Even, I hate saying it, but an AI routine randomly generating, it's the million monkeys, but we can actually do it now, randomly generating equations and seeing if the damn things work to do something practical would have the effect of making, literally, you can't really make math really secret. It just never fucking works. Any more than you can keep somebody who's a video game geek who happens to know how the Warthog's machine gun works. It's the Vulcan cannon, or whatever you want to call it. Correcting somebody in the War Thunder forums when all they do is they say something inaccurate about it, and they immediately correct them with even the data and maybe even a serial number, because they're a bunch of morons being confronted with on the internet, someone is wrong, therefore I must correct them to the ends of the earth. And you're watching an example of that. Now, again, we're going to play back the audio recording here, and I'm sure I'm missing something here, but here we go.
You don't just build a $1 billion frontier model in your basement and play around with it.
But you can, because you build a terminal that implements either a botnet, or you get a bunch of people to cooperatively let you use their systems, and you have the equivalent to $1 billion worth of computer equipment. Your average hardcore gaming machine's about $1,000. That's 1,000 gamers. I can just go on Rust and get that kind of population within a couple of weeks if I tell them I'm going to build some really cool thing in the game. Like, a cool weapon skin would literally get enough people interested, they'd let me use some processor time. See also SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. You don't even have to pay for it. Let's move on.
Some big AI company works out a way for how to make their models super intelligent.
The super intelligent part is done by purely, right now, training. The AI bots are designing the AI bots. Just like processors are being designed by computers, and the computers they're running on, we don't know exactly how processors work anymore. I'm not kidding. We have gotten to the point that we are hyper-engineering things and hyper-programming things by letting the programs write programs and letting our engineering utilities and algorithms build engineered items that we then run our code on. It's now an evolution on its own. Yes, I'm stating something factual, even though it sounds scary, but it isn't. It just means the computers are just reproducing. Let's move on.
It can make sense to classify.
Can make sense to classify. Doesn't have to. Actually, it doesn't make sense. That's what I'm saying.
By that maths, exactly because it's not something that others can easily reproduce.
But they can, because if you're not aware of it, some of the AI program websites and services you use and apps are actually in lawsuit battles with people trying to shut them up because they accidentally made the same invention. Patenting an AI utility or an algorithm only works if you can actually write it out in something reasonable for a person to process or parse. You can't anymore. They're too big and they're very vague. They reprogram themselves on the fly. What you start off with one day is not the same as the next. That's literally the model for building these now. So anybody can do that by just grabbing one that was open source and just evolving it. We're not so much writing things, we're just letting them write themselves. Did I mention the microprocessors being designed by computers using microprocessors we don't understand to make more microprocessors that we actually do not understand? Because it's the only way to get the edge now, is to let the computers evolve. I wasn't thinking about that before now, but now that scares me. And let's move on.
That's not to say that I'd advocate doing this. I'm just saying it's possible, and it would almost certainly work.
What I'm saying is it can't work because of the fact that it can't. And that's about it. As for the U.S. government hiding anything, unless... Well, two people can keep a secret as long as one of them is shot dead on immediately after that's told. Secrets always get out. It's a matter of time, every time. But anyway, that's my video on this subject. I'm totally unqualified for, except I'm sorry I'm old enough. I've seen this stuff evolve over time. I'm sorry, Sabina. I'm not comfortable saying your last name for some reason. Hossenfelder. She already knows. She's probably gotten annoyed by people like me. I can't help myself. I watch too much cartoons. But the point is, Sabina, I do believe that you were actually wrong on this one point. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. And I'll hope that YouTube doesn't flag the video to death or something. Bye.